Welcome to Two Wheels, and on this week's show, Wayne travels to an off-road event. In fact, it's a motocross evening in the middle of Wales. And later, Jeff will be telling us all we've ever needed to know about motorcycle suspension. But first, I travelled to a racetrack near Wigan, but I wasn't riding a normal race machine. Take a look at this. Now then, what on earth is this? You are probably asking yourself. In fact, that's the question I asked when I first saw this thing this morning. Some years ago, Suzuki made a bike called a Street Magic, and this is it. Well, this isn't it, but it was exactly the same as this, but it was never very popular. It never sold very well. So they've sold the rights to make the bike to somebody in Taiwan called the Herchi Industries Limited. And this is what they make. They're now being brought into the UK under the name of Adley Moto. And they're a kind of overgrown mini moto or an undernourished scooter. I'm not really sure which. That is as much as I know about these things. But over there, there's a man called Darren Eaton, and he knows a lot more than me.
They're 100cc, like a larger mini moto if you like. Just rev and go, 2 brakes, front and rear brake, centrifugal clutch. The beauty of them is they've got suspension, whereas mini motos haven't. Performance, they're probably around the same sort of performance as a top spec junior bike, which are 4.2 horsepower, probably do between 50 and 60 mile an hour. Obviously the other mini bikes, you know, you can get them up to like 12 horsepower now. But we still find that the lads who are doing the top class mini motos still love getting on these things, you know, and going for a black round, and it's all a bit of fun.
Now, this isn't the kind of machine that you're likely to see too often down at your local bike shop. But one man who actually sells the Adley Moto is Hugh Evans.
We sell the bikes for the road. A lot of the guys wanting to buy them, I mean, £1,500 gets you a really good road bike, but most guys are actually buying them to put on the road and then race at the weekend, and it's the racing which is the most exciting thing about these bikes. If you want to come along to one of these endurance events, you'll get around 3 hours of racing for 50 quid. All you need to do is turn up with your leathers. Any damage to the bike is covered by ourselves, so you just need to go out and enjoy yourselves.
So that's it, you now know all about the Adley Moto. You can put one of these on the road for 1,500 quid, but as we've heard, they really do come into their own when you get amongst it, so to speak. You put a few of them on the track together. And when you join me a little bit later, that's exactly what we'll be doing.
Now, modern bikes are pretty complicated bits of kit, and perhaps you're not much of a home mechanic, but I'll tell you what, if you're planning any long trips on your bike, a bit of touring or long distance, you need to know what sort of toolkit you've got on your bike. So open up the toolkit, see what you've got, because even if you can't use them, at least you can say, oh, I've got some spanners on the bike, you'll know what's there. Now, this is the standard kit on Honda. You've got a little adjustable spanner, screwdriver, spark plug spanner, some other bits and pieces. The important ones, rear suspension adjustments. And watch this, when you get this very small one, this is to adjust the preload on the spring. You'll see a big ring at the top of the spring, but it's very difficult to use like that. They always give you one of these, looks like a squash tube, which in fact it is, but you put that on the end there to give you extra leverage, so that's what that's for. Where you also use this is on the wheel nut spanners as well. See these two? Don't try using those because you never have the force to put on those. Put this over there, that's what it's designed for. And don't use it right up there, put it on the end so you can get some real purchase on there. While we're talking to that, why are you going to need to do that? You're going to adjust the back chains. Certainly if you're doing a lot of miles and if it's been raining, if it's hot weather or whatever, you're going to put some wear into that train, so you're going to need to adjust it. So here we are, there's the spanners, there's the what's it. Now this is what else I've done. Tyre pressure gauge that you've got to carry with you anyway, or certainly I do. I put a couple of bits of tape on there which have marked the actual rear chain clearance when the bike's on its stand, unloaded. That's what it's supposed to be, about 1.5 inches. So come round here. Okay, well I'm not going to use the spanners for now because I'm not actually going to adjust the chain, but this is all you do. Standard practice, pick the midpoint between the two sprockets, so gearbox sprocket, rear wheel, so midpoint, that's about there. Now with this little handy gauge that I've already marked out, that is the slack or the clearance that you're supposed to have on the chain. So put it in the mid position, about there we said, didn't we? Hold it down there, let's mark it up with that rivet. See that rivet is right on the edge of that tape, pull it up, and it's just, oops, it's just on the edge of the other tape, down there, another check, up there. So that's about right, I've actually got the correct clearance on that. But another tip for you, if you've got something similar like this and you haven't marked it out, but you've got a screwdriver blade or a tyre pressure gauge, come to the back of the bike and with the back wheel free, if you just put it in the sprocket there and just turn it around like that. Now that, I can't turn that wheel any further, that chain now is dead tight. That gives you a rough indication that that chain is about right. If this ended up coming around the back of the sprocket, not only has your sprocket had it, but the chain is about to come off and it's stretched hopelessly.
This is Glyn Margrave. He's got rather an amazing bike. It's an R7. Glyn, tell us about it.
Well, basically, it's a 1999 ex-British superbike that Dean Ashton rode as a privateer. I bought it about 10 months ago now. Just love it. I had R1s before. Always wanted one of these, but they're so rare, so hard to get hold of, and then to get a proper ex-British superbike is fantastic.
You've got a transporter as well for your track days. You've got an R7. It's got tyre warmers on. You've spent some money. How much do you do? How many track days do you do a year?
We do in the summer at least one a week every week, but I mean sometimes 2, 3, 4 a week, depending on if we travel down south to Brands Hatch or something like that. We try and make it sort of one on the way down, Brands Hatch, one on the way back. Probably 40 to 50 a year, something like that.
Gosh. If somebody's looking at doing this, getting a dedicated track bike,
yeah,
and they've got the money to do this, they buy an R7, what's the maintenance schedule like?
Well, I mean, basically it's once a year, complete strip down, rebuild, all the shells, absolutely everything, which goes back to Dean, who used to race it. I mean, he knows the bike inside out. And then really it's just meticulous maintenance. I mean, every other track day we change the oil, every 4 track days change the oil and filter. I mean, absolutely everything, you know. You've just got to keep on top of it, but if you do and you know you check everything's fine, they're not a problem at all. They're a lot more reliable than what they were when they first came out, and there's a few people saying the shells were problems. As long as you keep on top of them, no problem at all.
No problem at all. What got you into the track day?
Unfortunately, I had an accident on the road. Nobody's fault, just had a puncture in a corner. The bike spat me off, and just thought, just too dangerous. I love riding bikes, but the roads, I mean, anything can happen. At least here you've no cars coming the other way, everybody's going in the same direction, hopefully in the same sort of speed. So it's just a lot safer, a lot more fun. You know, you can't ride on a road how you'd ride here, so there's no going back really.
Time to take a break now on Two Wheels, but still to come this week, Jeff will be explaining all we've ever needed to know about motorcycle suspension, and there'll be more fun from the racetrack with the Street Magics. Welcome back to Two Wheels, and before we return to the racetrack where it starts to get rather wet, here's Jeff talking about suspension.
Bike suspension, full of mystique, but before we get into any of the technical details, some fundamentals first. Make sure that the mechanics are straight and make sure everything is running properly. Head bearings, for instance, they've got to actually run smoothly. Make sure there's no knottiness. Make sure that you're going to track nice and easy. Make sure your tyres have got plenty of wear left on them. Make sure they're the right pressure. Make sure they haven't got any flat spots on them. And the next thing to check is wheel alignment. Make sure both wheels are in line. If they're actually like this, with the back wheel out of line with the front one, you're not going to go anywhere fast or even slow. Once you've got those fundamentals straight though, next thing to check is your suspension sag. But first, what do we actually mean by sag? Well, what it is, it's the difference between the unloaded fork length, because I've got this wheel off the ground, it's free length if you like, and actually the length when it's actually loaded, just when you've got the weight of the bike on it when it's off its stand down on the ground. So what you need to do is get yourself a decent tape measure, and you've got to measure on a fixed point from the bike as against the bit that's going to move, which is the lower bit. So on here, upside down forks, you can actually pick up off that edge just above the oil seal there, put the tape on there, pull it down till you get a nice sharp edge you can measure off. Like I've got the wheel spindle just on that inner edge there, that sharp edge, and that, by the looks of it here, is 23.5 centimetres. So you just take a note of that, 23.5. Now the next thing to do is actually take it off its stand, get that front wheel on the ground, and then measure that length. Take one from the other, and that's your sag. Now as you can see here, the bike's already on the ground and I'm actually measuring up the swing arm position for the rear suspension. So again, you need a good fixed point. I'm on the number plate holder there, down to a nice sharp edge there. That's 51 centimetre there, and I know from when I measured it before when the suspension was actually unloaded, it was 53 centimetres, so that's 20 mil here. Up the front we had 23 mil, which is about right. If you're a sort of 12 stone rider, I'd say that's around about the sort of right level. If you're a bit heavier than that, you probably need to bang up the preload a little bit to adjust that sag so the bike doesn't squat so much before you actually get started. And how do you actually adjust that preload? With a C-spanner out of your toolkit, if it happens to be this sort of adjustment. You can see the rear shock on this Yamaha dead easy. So we just put this on this ring here. It's a bit fiddly, but nevertheless, fit it on. I said it was fiddly, didn't I? There we are, I've got that on there. And then I actually pull that round. It's easier if the bike's off the stand, but pull it round. There we go, one click. And you only need to do one thing at a time on there, so that's done that. I'd need to check the ride height again, the old sag at the back there. And then there's the front suspension to do as well, and you just need a spanner for that one. Right, you've adjusted the rear sag by adjusting the preload. Now it's up to the front end, and you can see here these nice blue anodized adjusters. Most important thing to do is count the actual visible rings on here. These aren't threads, they're actually marker rings. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 visible rings there. Put a spanner on there, make sure it's a decent fit. A socket set is in fact a better fit. And then turn each one of these down equally. That's the important thing to do. So just turn it down and do one division at a time, and then do the remeasuring of the sag. And that'll give you your actual preload, the increase in preload on there, and which will alter the sag. Now we've adjusted our sag by adjusting the preload. In fact, we've wound the preload up a bit. So the bit I'm doing now is actually checking the rebound damping. And the best way to do that, press on the centre of the tank, or rather the centre of the bike, near the filler cap in a strong part of the tank. Press in the middle, and you can compare the front and rear. The rear should be slightly slower to return than the front. This one isn't, but as this is a customer's bike, I'm not going to mess about with it. Perhaps he likes it like that, I don't know. But just to say that we actually wanted to adjust the front rebound. You do that on the adjusters on top of the forks. So you get yourself a decent screwdriver, and you see the little slotted, they're all the same, little slotted adjuster there. And as you turn them in, you can actually hear a little click. And it's most important that you screw both of them in by the same amount. So as you're twirling around there, just count the clicks. Say 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put this back to where it was. 2, 3. Do exactly the same on that one, and then you'll make sure that both fork legs are exactly the same as far as rebound damping goes. And then once you've done the front, you can then do the back. But first of all, I'm going to get this over so I can nail on something, because this one is really in a difficult place. Rear shocker's there, but it's the other way around compared with the forks, and so your rebound is right down at the bottom. And worse than that, it's actually behind the chain on this one. So if I get a bit closer there, you can just see the screw up under there. So you need to get the old screwdriver in on that head, which, as I say, it's a devil to get at. Get in there, and again, important, always count the clicks. So we'll just give that 1, 2, 3. I'm only picking on 3, no particular reason, but it's just handy. And I'll put it back for our customer friend. There we go. So we'll say you're happy with your rebound now. Now what you can get on a nice sports bike like this, you often get compression damping as well. You don't always get it, but where you do, it's at the other end of the shocker. And here it is, you can see it here. Nice shiny screw. Again, get your old screwdriver, get it on that slot, and again, count those clicks. Can't stress that too much, just count them. There we are, 3 and back again. So that'll give you compression damping. That bit's important really for comfort. If you're on a racetrack, you can crank it up, have it nice and firm. But on Britain's roads, you need a little bit of compliance, so don't be silly about it. But always count it, so at least you know where you've been. Having done the rear, you can then concentrate on the front. Now on the front, they're down the bottom of the forks. At the back here, see what I mean about it being confusing? And again, I should have kept my kneading mat there, but there you get the screw in there, put your screwdriver in, and again, count those clicks. 1, there it goes, 2, you can probably hear that one, 3, there we are, nice and sharp, put that back, 2, 3. So that'll give you compression damping for the front. And that's it, that's your suspension, not actually set up, but at least those are the component parts, and you can have a crack yourself, but just be careful what you're doing.
Welcome back to Three Sisters. Now the lads have decided that, well, they're here, they might as well have a little race. So we've got 6 teams of 2 and they're going to have a 1-hour endurance race, which is good because it means no fuel stops, nothing. It's just a case of get on it and go for it. And as soon as I lift this flag up and throw it down again, they'll be off. Are you right, lads? On your marks, off you go. And will they? Oh, here we go. He's away. Come on! Superb. We've just got a few spots around now and it shows you, if you thought these things were pretty tame, it just shows you how much fun they are. They're pretty deadly things, really. Right, I've got the winners with me here now, Colin and Nigel, who I have to say look completely at home on that bike. Have you done a bit of this before, Nigel?
A little bit, mostly mini biking, but...
Have you done this before on these scooters?
No. Well, I had a go at dirt, they had the dirt version in Italy, but not on the road like this.
What about you, Colin? Have you done a bit of this?
Yeah, I came here the last time they were at Three Sisters in the same weather, but I was lucky to get a drive session then.
Right. What's your background then? Mini bikes and things like that?
Yeah, mini bikes, 125, road racing 250.
Alright. Do you do other tracks, don't you? Do you still do that now?
I don't race, but I've got that 600 on the road, do a few track days.
Yeah. Is this as nearly as much fun as that?
It is, yeah, definitely. In the dry, definitely is, yeah.
Yeah. It's very competitive, this, isn't it, Nigel? Do you think?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, everyone wants to win. I know they say it's fun and that, and it is, and I've had a laugh today, but if you've got someone in front of you and you know you can peg them back, you always try and peg them back and try and take them.
The bikes are all the same though, aren't they? So it's a good...
We've got a good one. Ours is just the best.
I think we need to put your bike through scrutineering because you were flying out there, you were.
We want to laugh. It's been great.
That's all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah. It is at this level, yeah.
Yeah, great. Well done. Congratulations.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks.
There's an old saying, isn't there? Don't knock it until you've tried it. And when I first saw these things on the track this morning, I thought it looked pretty boring, didn't look very exciting, not very powerful. But once you get out there and get amongst it, it gets very competitive, great fun. And if you do fall off, you're probably not going to hurt yourself too much. And more importantly, you're not going to get a huge bill for repairs if you do fall off. Hundred cc's, no gears, flat out everywhere, don't bother with the brakes. Oh, terrific, fantastic, gonna have another go. It's brilliant. Well, that's all from Two Wheels for this week, but on next week's show I travel to Sheffield to an event organised by the South Yorkshire Police, where the emphasis is very much on road and rider safety. It's called Bike Safe 2002. Jeff will be back with some more motorcycling tips, and we'll meet some of the riders on a recent track day at Cadwell Park.